Did a $7 trillion asset manager, the third largest asset manager in the world, just imply that Bitcoin can hit $25 million per coin? Well, today I've uncovered a video on the Schwab network of an analyst making one of the most bullish Bitcoin portfolio allocations that I have ever personally heard, coming from the mouth of a network that is worth $7 trillion. So let's hope this audio plays and jump straight into this clip.
And how much of a portfolio do you think should be allocated to cryptocurrency at this point? And has that changed now that we have a very pro-crypto president coming into office?
Absolutely. I think if you don't have at least 10% of your investment account in Bitcoin or Bitcoin related assets, you're going to fall significantly behind. So that is our advice at Moonwalker Capital.
Bitcoin related.
So did you guys hear that? Or was that just me? We have an analyst speaking on the Schwab network. This is the Charles Schwabb network. That's right. We are talking about the $7.13 trillion bank and investment firm, Charles Schwab. And there's an analyst on their network saying that if you don't have 10% of your money allocated into Bitcoin, you are going to fall significantly behind. So I wanted to actually run the numbers behind this allocation and why All Night Hider in the chat says that 10% is actually bearish. So I tweeted this out this morning. I've already copped a lot of flack for it, okay? People have already been blowing me up in the mentions, saying, oh, this isn't necessarily Charles Schwab saying this. This is an analyst speaking on their network. Now, I'm going to show you the receipts and the data for why I disagree with the actually guys on Twitter, but I want to first run the maths. Let's assume the $7 trillion asset manager is actually openly saying that if you don't have 10% of your assets in Bitcoin, you're going to fall significantly behind. Now, again, before you think I'm making a big jump and a big assumption, last week we also saw the CEO of Charles Schwab say that he feels silly for not buying Bitcoin. And we also know that Charles Schwab is potentially going to be launching their own crypto ETFs and even trying to offer trading to their clients. So to the actually guys who are saying, okay, well, this isn't necessarily a Charles Schwab analyst who did say these things. That is true. But again, let's look at reality here. Why would they not delete that video if they don't agree with these recommendations and these things being said on their very own network, the Charles Schwab network? Why is the CEO openly saying publicly, I feel stupid for not investing in Bitcoin? Why would he say these things if they're not pro-Bitcoin? Why would they offer their clients trading services if they're not pro-Bitcoin? That's a story for another day. Let's just jump straight into the maths. Again, let's take this 10% assumption at face value, and I want to run some maths. Yesterday, we actually ran some maths of a different kind. We had a look at what could potentially happen because BlackRock, again, look at the timing of these things. BlackRock, in the very same week that Charles Schwab had this video featured on their network, came out and BlackRock essentially said the quiet parts out loud. They said, well, yeah, you know what? We actually think a 2% allocation to Bitcoin is where we should be and where people really should be allocating their money. We did a video on that yesterday and we showed how that recommendation implies Bitcoin could reach $5 million per coin. But what about a 10% allocation? Like what we just heard on the Charles Schwab network. Well, I want to run the numbers because I did run the numbers earlier today on Twitter. And I said, all right, what happens if hypothetically the world listens to this $7 trillion asset manager? And what happens if that $900 trillion pool of money that is global wealth wants to be allocated into Bitcoin? You guys can see the maths that I've ran here. We can see that 10% of 900 trillion is $90 trillion of hypothetical demand. And here is the big thing that everybody gets wrong. We need to use a 6x multiplier for that hypothetical demand because not all the Bitcoin is available for sale. So to answer Drew Thomas's comment here on Twitter, what the frick is the multiplier effect? I'm going to be showing you what the multiplier effect is. I actually had a couple of people ask me about the multiplier effect, but don't worry, I have a chart to show you what it is. For those who missed the live stream yesterday, I'm going to keep this really quick and really brief. We can see the multiplier effect on Bitcoin today is around 5.8x. That means for every $1 that wants to flow into Bitcoin, it does not push the Bitcoin market cap up by $1, pushes the market cap up by 5.8x. And this is actually conservative because the multiplier effect used on this website over here is actually looking at a 2-year moving average of the multiplier effect. That's why I like to use this website. So let's jump back on over here to our maths where we have, again, hypothetically, what is it? $90 trillion of hypothetical demand coming for Bitcoin. Let's go back to this highlighted section. That would imply, once we use that 6x multiplier effect, that would imply a $540 trillion market cap for Bitcoin. Then you divide by your 21 million coins once you've taken into account for the multiplier effect and the fact that not all 21 million Bitcoin are available for sale. And you guys can see it here. We are looking at a $25.71 million Bitcoin price tag per coin. So again, I think this is interesting. I think a lot of people hear these recommendations on the mainstream news and they think, all right, that's cool.
Data science can help address some of the biggest challenges in the financial.
I hope that audio and that video didn't play for you guys. But the point I was making was a lot of people hear these recommendations. 2% Bitcoin allocation, 10% Bitcoin allocation. And they're like, okay, who cares? So what? I don't care that BlackRock's telling me to put 2% of my money into Bitcoin. But people are not actually able to translate these portfolio allocations into reality and what it actually means. If BlackRock openly says, yeah, Bitcoin's going to $5.14 million per coin, that's going to hold a lot more weight than BlackRock saying, yeah, put 2% of your money into Bitcoin. Okay? See, the things hit you differently, right? And this is why I always like to show examples and use analogies and run the maths over here. It's the same thing with, what was said on the Charles Schwab network. If you say they're creating and publishing videos of analysts saying that you are going to get significantly left behind. That was her exact words. You are going to get significantly left behind if you don't have a 10% Bitcoin allocation. Okay, a lot of people hear that and they think, okay, 10% allocation, that's cool, that's bullish, great, we got another bull tard. But it hits differently if you think about what that 10% portfolio allocation means on a global sense. Again, if the world rebalanced to that 10% portfolio allocation so that they don't get significantly left behind, you're looking at a $25.71 million Bitcoin price tag, baby. That's bullish, okay? And it really does hit differently, okay? And really, like, that opens up people's minds. $25 million? What the frick? You know what I mean? That's very different. Okay, and again, in yesterday's live stream, we did actually run the numbers about BlackRock talking about an 84.9% allocation into Bitcoin. And you guys know I love having a look at what that means. Again, BlackRock has also come out and talked about the possibility of a 28% allocation to Bitcoin, and that implies a $48 million Bitcoin price tag. We ran the numbers on that earlier in the year, and that was, of course, using a multiplier effect of 4. Right now, it's actually higher. It's 6. Okay? So when you run the numbers with McLovin's comment here in the chat, where BlackRock said an 84.9% allocation was optimal, you're looking at a Bitcoin price tag closer to $200 million per coin. And yes, we've done a video on that, running through all of the maths. We're going to be running through some more maths here in a moment and having a look at what Charles Schwab's intentions for Bitcoin could be. But I want to peep on over here at the live chat because we're lively. We are very like, oh, Michael, my man, sent me another $10 super chat. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Really do appreciate it. I might go and use that to go get a haircut after this live stream's finished. As you can see, the mop's looking a little bit wild right now. So again, I don't think you guys care too much about my wild hair. So thank you for the super chat, Michael. I'm going to go get a bit of a fresh buzz cut. I'll let you know how much it costs. I'm in Spain right now, so if they try to charge me something ridiculous, I'm going to say no gracias. I prefer the Bitcoin. Damn, you guys can fill up a chat pretty quickly. 562 of you guys tuning in between Twitter and YouTube. I can't even keep up with the chat. I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to come back to the chat because I want to talk more about Charles Schwab. I think we're seeing some things here that's interesting, and I think we're seeing some things here that if you read between the lines, Charles Schwab is openly bullish. We can see here Matthew Skool tweeted this out. Schwab CEO says he feels silly for not buying Bitcoin, and he announces that Charles Schwab will enter the spot Bitcoin markets. Bullish. Let's see if the audio works on this. The audio never works on Twitter clips, but let's have a crack. This is the Charles Schwab president saying the quiet parts out loud.
Attention. And, we never like to judge what people want to invest in. People on our platform, we think, are very thoughtful investors, very sharp. They make decisions about what they want to invest in. And crypto has certainly caught many's attention. And they've made a lot of money doing it. I have not bought crypto, and now I feel silly. So they've been the ones making all this money. We never like to judge.
I have not bought crypto. Again, he used a little bit of a dirty buzzword there. And I feel silly. What do you guys think? I think that's incredibly bullish. I think things are really interesting. I think Charles Schwab, the $7 trillion asset manager, is quietly embracing Bitcoin in a really big way. And we can also see here, clients are bullish this quarter. Demand for Bitcoin ETFs picking up, says the head of trading at Charles Schwab. Again, December 5th, 3 weeks ago. That video I just played you guys of the Charles Schwab CEO saying that he feels silly, also December 6th. This video on the Charles Schwab network over here of this lady getting bull-tarded saying that if you don't own a 10% Bitcoin allocation, you're getting significantly left behind. This was on November 25th. Are you guys starting to see the timelines here of the Charles Schwab pivot or the Charles Schwab, I can't say that on a live stream. Let's say the Charles Schwab pin dive into the pool of Bitcoin. Okay, I think they're jumping in and they're going all in. And they're going to be throwing the kitchen sink at Bitcoin in a really big way. And as McLovin here in the chat says, the Overton window is shifting by the day. And I think a lot of people aren't really eternalizing, how do you say that word? Just how bullish things have been over the past month or two. I do think price right now is a significant lagging indicator. We're going to talk more about price here in a moment and why everybody's short Bitcoin. But I want to play a little bit more of this clip because it gets even more bullish towards the end of this clip. I believe it was one of these last questions here I want to play for you guys.
Certainly bullish for crypto, but why is it that he's going to be so good for crypto? And I mean, we're seeing it priced in right now, so we're seeing it happen right now, but why the bullishness?
You have to understand that these financial institutions, they have a lot of oversight and they have a lot of checks and balances, right? Mm-hmm. And even these institutional investors, aside from banks like endowments and sovereign wealth funds, they have several checks and balances above them as to where they allocate their capital, and nobody wants to make the wrong decision. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you now have an incoming president of the United States giving you a complete green light that this is now a legitimate asset and it will not be prosecuted, and the financial activity around it will not be the financial innovation around it will not be prosecuted, is giving these decision makers the green light to go and allocate capital in a way that they were too scared to before.
Okay, so if those investors who maybe have a little FOMO that they didn't join in on the party, are sitting there listening to you talking about Bitcoin at potentially 500,000, but potentially 80,000 before then, so definitely some volatility. What's your biggest piece of advice for those looking to get in?
My biggest piece of advice is don't wait, because this may be the last few weeks that you might be able to buy Bitcoin at 100K.
All right, we'll leave it there. So great to have you, Tatiana.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, that was Tatiana.
I mean, how bullish is this chick? My biggest piece of advice is don't wait. Your chance to buy Bitcoin under $100,000 is evaporating and it's going to run away from you. And Bitcoin is like a train leaving the station. Once it's gone, baby, those brakes on a train, they're pretty hard to get working and there is no coming back, okay? Again, as British HODL has said for years here, your time to buy one Bitcoin, it's really running out. And I think a lot of people simply are not prepared for what Bitcoin does in bull markets, okay? Speaking of what Bitcoin does in bull markets, again, I always want to share this chart as much as possible because I think it really does put things into perspective. Bitcoin will run away from you. And that is because if you miss the 10 best days in Bitcoin each year, shown in the purple bar charts here, you get left behind. It's as simple as that. The majority of Bitcoin's gains, they come in 10 days. And they typically come after we've had little corrections and little shakeouts like we've recently seen in Bitcoin. I really want, don't tell me I got logged out of my trading view. No, we're back, baby. I got another window open. We've seen one of these little corrections and one of these little shakeouts right now. Bitcoin again, right now is, where are we trading? 12% from the all-time high. At the peak of that flush out, we were down by 15% from the all-time high. Right now, we're trading at 95,000 big ones per coin. A lot of people are saying, oh, Bitcoin's topped at 100K. It's all over, baby. Pack it up. I don't think that's true. I really do strongly believe that this is the first of many bull market corrections that we're going to see. I wouldn't even be surprised if this thing goes lower. I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a 30% shakeout. Again, nobody knows where the price of Bitcoin's going to be going in the short term. But what we do know is that Bitcoin's incredibly violent in bull runs. And I do expect that trend to continue. And it's going to be more volatile to the upside because most people do not know what they own. They're not prepared for the future. Okay? It's as simple as that. People have no idea what they own. They have no idea what Bitcoin is. And they're not prepared for some of the face-melting rallies I think we are going to see in the next 6 to 12 months. Okay, again, if Bitcoin just repeats what it did in 2017, you're looking at Bitcoin at over $1 million a coin, nearly $2 million a coin. That's right. Bitcoin 20x'd in 2017. We went from under $1,000 to $20,000 in 9 months. Where was our, bear market bottom? 16K? What's a 20x on 16K? $3.2 million per coin. Again, I'm not calling for that, but I'm saying it's much more likely to happen than most people think. Because most people think Bitcoin has to do this diminishing returns theory thing because maths and science, because of power law, right? I just don't. I think those ideas are going to get blown out of the water and most people don't know what they own. Again, if you do want to actually protect your Bitcoin, because again, if Bitcoin's at $1 million a coin, if you got Bitcoin on an exchange, I'm sorry to tell you, my friend, you could have some difficulties accessing that generational wealth. This is why I always tell you guys to self-custody your Bitcoin. If you're not holding your own keys, it's not your Bitcoin. If you don't have your 12 or 24 word Bitcoin backup phrase in your own custody, it's not your Bitcoin. It's as simple as that. This is why I always encourage you guys to not only take self-custody of your Bitcoin private keys that controls your Bitcoin, but actually back up those 12 or 24 words in a way that they should be backed up, and that is on titanium. Again, as Shortcoin in the chat says, self-custody. If you are not self-custodying your Bitcoin, you do not own the Bitcoin. This is why I always recommend you guys check out what Stampseed is creating. They're creating these sexy little titanium plates for you to stamp your Bitcoin backup words into titanium. As All Night Hider has popped into the chat, you guys can use a promo code Luke15 to get 15% discount off anything you want to buy from Stampseed. Okay, so again, take control of your wealth. If you want to actually also take control of other aspects of your life, and you do agree that the majority of the health insurance space is a scam, I'd like to point you towards a Bitcoin company who's trying to fix health insurance in the fiat space. And that, of course, is Crowd Health. Again, you guys know I'm a little bit of a health nut. And I think we should all be taking control and taking sovereignty over our own health. And I like Crowd Health and I like what they're doing. That's why I've partnered up with these guys recently. And if you use a promo code Green Candle, you can actually get a massive discount on your first 3 months, and you can get those at 99 big ones. $99 for the first 3 months of health insurance. Highly recommend you check out what Crowd Health is doing. You can use the link in the description down below for not only Crowd Health, but also Stampseed. So let's talk a little bit more about what is going on. Are we starting to see a phase shift amongst the asset managers? BlackRock talking about a 2% Bitcoin allocation in the same week that we have Charles Schwabb network having analysts on like this, saying that if you don't own a 10% Bitcoin allocation, you're going to get left significantly behind. I think the fact we're seeing all of this right now is, I think it's proof in the pudding that Bitcoin hasn't topped at 100K. I think this bull run is just getting started. I do think we're going to see a lot more bullishness over the next 6 to 12 months. You guys know Bitcoin very, very rarely peaks 9 months after a halving. We had the Bitcoin halving earlier in the year. Right now, we're only about, 8 or 9 months after the halving. It would be incredibly rare to see Bitcoin top so early in this cycle. So I do think we have a lot more upside ahead of us. Again, that upside is going to be volatile. I want you guys to be prepared for a lot of these 30% pullbacks. We could be in one of those right now. But I do think this cycle has the potential to be different, guys. Okay, again, this is the first cycle where we've seen coins leaving the exchanges consistently for 4 years in a row now, which is why we've seen the Bitcoin multiplier effect hit its highest level in history and continue to hit new all-time highs. Okay, it's because Bitcoin's getting more rare and more scarce. And I think we're going to see some fireworks if we do start seeing a lot more of these strategic Bitcoin reserves implemented and floated. I mean, how incredible is it that we have the largest nation state in the world openly talking about creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve? I think it's stupid bullish. I think it's crazy bullish. If you guys want to get even more bullish, I'm going to remind you guys to check out the live stream we did yesterday, where we had a look at BlackRock's new report talking about a 1 to 2% Bitcoin allocation. Okay, as you can see on screen, that is the live stream on the left, $5.14 million Bitcoin. I'm going to put a link to that live stream in the chat. And I highly recommend you check it out because I think it's bullish. I think it's more bullish than this comment. It's going up forever, Laura. BlackRock recommendation allocation went from 85% to 2% is because they don't want the entire financial system collapsing. Oh, that's actually a hot take. That is a hot take. I think BlackRock have done the math. They did the maths in that 2022 report. They said it. 85% Bitcoin allocation was the optimal allocation for the past 10 years of data. I agree with it's going up forever. This is the beautiful thing about Bitcoin. Again, pay your taxes. Nothing I say here is financial advice. Nothing I ever say here should be construed as financial advice. Pay your taxes, but hey, if you buy Bitcoin the way you should be buying Bitcoin, how about this? I can say this on a live stream. If you buy Bitcoin, if you never sell it, you don't need to pay taxes. There you go. But again, I think you guys can read between the lines. Bitcoin's the only asset that you can own a lot of without anyone knowing. I think that's a better way to say it. Bitcoin has zero utility. Come on. McLovin here makes a great point. When Bitcoin drops from $250,000 to $180,000, the critics will say I was right once again. The cynics will come out of the woodwork. They'll say, see, I was right. Again, I was doing a lot of thinking about this the other day, and the cynics will be right 99% of the time. But when they're wrong, they're incredibly wrong. And that's where the optimists actually get rich and make money. that's a rabbit hole for another day. I don't want to get too philosophical on you guys today. This is just going to be a short and sharp live stream. There's 800 of you guys tuning in. I might try to end this live stream and let you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I am going to be going live again later today on the bitcoinnews.com YouTube channel. I'm going to be cranking live streams all week before I fly back to Colombia. Michael, thank you so much for supporting the show and throwing us that $10 super chat today, my friend. I'm going to go get a haircut right now. And you may or may not see me with a buzz cut in around 3 or 4 hours time over on the bitcoinnews.com YouTube channel. Again, if you did miss yesterday's live stream about BlackRock's report and their $5.14 million maths calculation, I am going to put a link to that video that will appear after this live stream is finished somewhere around there. That's going to take you straight to that video. With all that said, thank you so much to the 811 of you guys tuning in on Twitter and YouTube. I'll see you guys later today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.